Nobody wants to say that out loud. Not the teams, not the broadcasters, not the commercial rights holders who have built entire revenue structures around the idea that the sport's biggest personality will be in a cockpit for the foreseeable future. But that version of Formula One is no longer a theoretical exercise. It is a real possibility sitting inside the 2026 season with a weight and a credibility that it has never carried before. Verstappen is not happy. The 2026 regulations, the Red Bull performance deficit, the penalty point situation, the strain on his relationship with Lambiase. Every week this season has added something new to the list of reasons why the man who dominated this sport for 4 consecutive years is looking at the exit and not immediately looking away. But here is what this week added. While Verstappen is looking at the exit, McLaren is making a statement, a big one. The kind that does not just win races, it reshapes the narrative of who this sport belongs to. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, the 2 most exciting young talents on the current grid. They arrived at this moment in 2026 with momentum, and they used it. And underneath both stories sits the question nobody in Formula One has had to seriously answer for 4 years. Who replaces Max Verstappen as this sport's megastar? Who carries the weight of being the face, the personality, the competitive force that makes a neutral person care about a race they had no intention of watching? That question has an answer, maybe more than one. Today, we are going to find it. Subscribe to F1 Race Report right now. Let us go. Let us establish something clearly. Verstappen leaving Formula One is not a storyline manufactured for clicks. It is a documented, paddock-level conversation that has been building since the opening race of 2026 and now has enough substance behind it that dismissing it is no longer intellectually honest. Verstappen has spoken publicly and repeatedly about his frustration with the 2026 regulations in ways that go beyond standard driver complaints. He has talked about the sport's fundamental direction, about the loss of driver control in a regulatory environment where energy deployment sequencing determines outcome more than the person behind the wheel. He has options outside Formula One that are not backup plans. IndyCar, Le Mans, the World Endurance Championship. These are things he has spoken about with genuine enthusiasm for years, and that now represent realistic alternatives rather than distant possibilities. What is new this week is the specificity. Sources close to Red Bull indicate that Verstappen's internal conversations have moved beyond venting about a difficult season. He is asking real questions about what the 2026 regulatory environment looks like at year's end. He is asking whether the FIA's planned changes will actually fix what is broken or are cosmetic adjustments designed to manage the optics of a backlash, and the answers he is getting are not giving him a reason to stay. His contract runs through 2028. That matters legally. It does not matter emotionally for a driver who has made clear his motivation is winning. No contract keeps a 4-time world champion in a car he no longer believes in. The mechanisms through which a driver of Verstappen's stature can exit a contract that no longer serves either party are well understood by everyone in this paddock. The question is not whether he can leave. The question is whether Formula One gives him a reason to stay before the point of no return arrives. Now, McLaren, because while every other story in 2026 has been about what's going wrong, McLaren has been quietly and then very loudly demonstrating what going right looks like. Norris and Piastri have produced the most consistent front-running performances of any driver pairing in the opening phase of 2026, not just in results, in the way they are racing. The composure, the precision, the ability to manage the 2026 power unit regulations in a way that turns energy deployment variables into competitive advantages rather than sources of frustration. The big statement this week was not just a race result, it was the performance, communication, and visible team cohesion McLaren put on display while every other front-running team managed some form of crisis. Red Bull navigating the Verstappen-Lambiase strain, Ferrari searching for consistency, McLaren rebuilding credibility after the engine ban. McLaren looked like the most functional team in Formula One, in a sport where perception shapes everything from sponsor deals to driver recruitment. That's not a small thing. Norris specifically delivered something that transcended
suspended lap times. He's been here before, the nearly man who gets everything right except the last piece. In 2026, he doesn't look like that driver anymore. He looks like a champion who hasn't collected the trophy yet. The maturity, the tire management, the clarity in communication with his engineers, these are not characteristics of a driver still developing. These are characteristics of a driver who has arrived. Piastri completes the picture. Two drivers at the same team, both capable of winning, managing internal competition with professionalism that teams twice McLaren's size have failed to produce with half the talent.
Who replaces Verstappen as F1's megastar?
Four names belong in this conversation, for different reasons. Lando Norris is the most obvious answer. The personality, the social media presence, the crossover appeal that reaches well outside the traditional Formula One demographic. Already one of the most recognizable athletes globally among the under-30 audience. If McLaren gives him a championship in 2026 or 2027, the platform he already has becomes something genuinely extraordinary. Oscar Piastri is the less obvious and possibly more durable answer. He doesn't carry Norris's volume or mainstream profile. What he carries is rarer, a calmness under pressure that makes extraordinary things look routine. The drivers who become lasting megastars are not always the loudest. Sometimes they are the ones who make winning look inevitable. Piastri is starting to look inevitable. Charles Leclerc is the answer that keeps getting delayed. The talent has been there for 5 years. Monaco, Monza, the pole positions and near misses. He's never had the season where everything came together simultaneously. With Hamilton at Ferrari, his window is narrower than ever. But Leclerc, at his best, is the kind of racing driver this sport was built to showcase. If Ferrari gives him the car, the story writes itself. And then there's Kimi Antonelli, 18 years old, at Mercedes, already showing composure in his rookie season that drivers twice his age can't manufacture. Antonelli is not the answer today. He's the answer in 3 years, when the next generation conversation stops being hypothetical. His ceiling is as high as anyone on this grid. Here's the thing about who replaces Max Verstappen as Formula One's megastar. The question assumes one driver fills that space the way he did. Dominant, singular, unavoidable. That's probably not how it happens. What's more likely is that Formula One enters a period defined not by one dominant personality, but by a genuine rivalry between drivers who push each other to the limit. Norris versus Piastri, Leclerc fighting back, Antonelli arriving. That era doesn't have one megastar. It has a conversation. Verstappen built 4 years of monologue. It was spectacular. It was historic. It may be ending. What comes next might be even better. Drop your take in the comments. Who do you think replaces Max Verstappen as Formula One's biggest star? And does McLaren's statement this week make them genuine championship favorites for 2026? Subscribe to F1 Race Report for this conversation every single week. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you at Miami.